Hi guys, this is going to be a general reading for Aries, Sun, Moon and Ascendant. If you don't know what your Moon and Ascendant signs are, have a look in the description box below. All the information you need is in there. If you would like a personal reading, I can be reached at the email address, which is in the description box also. As usual, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. If you've not subscribed and you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. What else to tell you? Not much really. Changing the deck I'm using this month, because I have like 4,000 amazing beautiful decks and I never use them. I seem to rotate the same like 2 or 3, so I'm making a point before each reading to have a sit with your energy and see which deck actually wants to be used. Deck. I hope I said deck there. Anyway, using the Druid craft today. Because it's massive, I can't do my usual flippy thing. So I'm going to split these into a few different piles and see which one is the one that wants to be read. The reading's time-stamped, so if you want to skip through all of this bit and get straight to the reading, go down to the comment box below, and the first comment will be me time-stamping the video. I wasn't going to say anything, but I am going to say it actually, because I'm a bit needled by it. If my prattling at the beginning of the video pisses you off, that's what the timestamp's there for. If you've got time to go down into the comment box and tell me that I'm prattling, then you've got time to click a number that will take you to the exact point that the reading starts. For fuck's sake, like really. Anyway, now that's all done with, I have 5 piles. Let's see which one. That one. I'm going to take the top 3 cards. So, Aries for the month of November. Your first card is the Sun. Love it. Card of Leo, very fiery, just like you. Your second card is Princess of Swords. Page of Swords in the standard deck. And your final card is the Two of Cups, water energy, like it. On the bottom of the deck we have the Lovers. It's a card of Gemini, interesting. Seems like a distinct turn in tone for the sort of readings that we've been getting for you of late. That one. I'm just going to grab a couple of clarifiers and then we'll get on with this. So let's give these a proper shuffle. Prattling. One more. Okay, so why is the Sun here for Aries for the month of November? That one on the floor. I hope you're well, anyway, other than that. A bit annoyed with this deck now. Like, don't tell me you want to be used and then don't fling me out cards. Right, do you know what? I'm going to take these. We've got the Star, card of Aquarius, and we've got the Devil, but it's come out reversed, which I like. Good job. Why is the Page of... That one wanted to come out. We've got the Hierophant, another major arcana, card of Taurus. take both of those. I was going to put them back, but actually I'll take them. We've got the Knight of Wands, Sagittarius, and the Eight of Cups, water energy. So lastly we have Two of Cups. Fuck me. Cards have a mind of their own. Why is the Two of Cups here for Aries for November? Well, first card you've got is Five of Pentacles in reverse. And then we have the Knight of Swords, air energy. On the bottom of the deck we have the Five of Wands. That's fire energy, Leo. Right then. See, I know I said that this was kind of a different kind of tone to previous readings, but now all the cards are out, I'm starting to wonder if it really is, actually. It may be a continuation of previous month's readings. And if it is, I'm delighted, because that's a good thing. Right. Bean juice. So the first card you have is the Sun. It's the most positive card in the deck. It's a beautiful card. That's a card of Leo and numbered 19 of the Major Arcana. Now it can talk about children, but for me it rarely means that. There's a child on the card and a child's on the horse and whatnot, but for me this is a card of your inner child, you know, and that's why it's a Leo card, because, you know, an evolved Leo that's in the right place in their head is basically a child. They're in touch with their inner child, at least, and they're full of joy and positivity and innocent pleasure, I guess, you know. There's a harp over the horse's back, and harps are symbols of harmony. You know, they make sweet music. They're peaceful, they're restful. This is a harmonious scene. And this is you, this is your energy. It's fire. And whilst it's not Aries exactly, it is of your element. And the fact that the harp is there on the horse says to me that there's an element of harmony coming in November. I do think this is a continuation from previous month's reads, because you've been flip-flopping about. You were wet and you were put out, and then you went a little too far the other side, and then you got afraid of the water and the balance. But here we have something that indicates balance. And it's funny, as I'm looking at this card and I'm looking at the harp, I'm thinking in this deck here, this one, the Llewellyn that I use mostly, it's the Hierophant that the harp features on. And interestingly, we've got the Hierophant here down on the table. I don't know why this is relevant, but I'm just telling you anyway. So it's there and it's pinging around in my head. The other place, interestingly, that the harp appears is in the tower, but it's actually fallen over. It's not upright. Not only is this harp upright, it's being carried with you. And I think that's an important point. You know, this is not it's not a fixed place or fixed situation in which you find harmony. That harmonious energy is coming from you, and you're carrying it around with you wherever you go. And I think that's wonderful. I really do. And the two cards that you have to clarify are the Star, a bit bright there, the Star and the Devil reversed. And as you know, this is the card of Aquarius. There may be an Aquarius involved, but I don't think so. This is all feeling very energetic, actually, today. Although it's the card of Aquarius, and so therefore air energy, it's water that features most prominently for me here on this card. You see how she's pouring from both jugs into the land and to the water. It's a card of healing. You know, there's vulnerability implied here in this card. And that's an important thing for fire signs particularly, is to understand that you can be vulnerable and still be true to your element. She's got one foot in the water and one foot out of the water on the land. There's balance there. She's balancing two jugs as she pours in, you know. And it's kind of feeding around in a loop, because the water that's going down onto the ground is then coming into the pool. You know, it's feeding everything. And this is you, and this is the work that you've done on yourself in the last few months. And I feel like there has been quite some significant work, because you don't get in touch with your inner child unless you've healed some really big traumas. And most people do have big traumas inside them and don't even recognize them as such. But that's where shadow work comes in. That's the whole point of shadow work. And I feel like you have been doing it. And now you're feeling balanced. Now you've stopped being afraid of the water. You've understood that you need to have a foot in the water to maintain the balance. No one is all one element. It would be very unhealthy. And here you are. You've done the work. And you're now the Sun. And the Devil reversed. You know, I mean, there's all the standard interpretations for the Devil, which is, you know, toxicity and codependency and self-sabotage and all these kind of things. But it's really just bondage, mental bondage of any sort, or even soul bondage, if you want to, you know, look at it like that. You know, these two people on this card are tethered by the neck. You know, and this is unpleasant goat-headed thing here, being the Devil. They're enslaved to something, and for some people that can be drink, that can be drugs, that can be, you know, rock and roll, whatever, you know, sex, pornography, masturbation, you know, the works. It can be any of those things. Anything that, you know, you can enjoy in moderation, but if you do it a little bit too much, then it starts to become a problem. Hedonism of any description, really. But it can also be like toxic thought processes. It can be anxiety. It can be all those voices in the back of your head that aren't actually your voice, but whom you are parenting. So, you know, my mother used to come out with some really extraordinary ways to describe me. Not one of them was accurate, but I carried those with me for decades and decades. It was only last year that I unravelled some of them. I was absolutely stunned to realise that those were still affecting me, and things that she had said to me 30 years ago were still dictating how I behaved as an adult. Shocker, you know. So although these two characters are, you know, bound by the neck, they're chained up and whatever, it's not tight. And actually, you know, the loop is large enough that they could literally just pull them over their head and just walk off. But they don't want to. They keep themselves trapped there out of fear. And maybe that's fear of consequences, or fear of fear of the unknown, or, you know, changing the status quo in any way. You know, but what you have done this month, certainly what you've done on the run-up to this month, is you've taken that chain off. You know, in its upside down, so that chain is literally just falling over your head and going off, and you are free to walk away. You know, these two cards. Here's an interesting thing. All three of these cards In fact, if we include the shadow card, all 4 of these cards depict naked people. All 3 of them. Which is something really interesting that I'd never really noticed before. These are all different states of vulnerability. This one is unhealthy. These 2 are great. And here. It's knowing the right balance. And it is balance. You know, as this is a card of extremes, which you are now walking away from. This is innocent joy. This is being completely stripped down and stripped bare of those things that you've been carrying around with you that actually don't serve you at all. They're gone. And it's interesting that the Lovers should have come up for the shadow card, because this is a mirror. You know, the Lovers is a mirror of the devil. You've got the healthy and the toxic. You know, these 2 are free, these ones are chained. You know, there's usually an angel over the top in the standard deck, and on this one it's got a deer. You know, and they're just there's all sorts of symbols on this card now that I'm looking at it. There's a snake wrapped around an egg, and there's a green man. You know, this card can be a choice. This card can be a perceived lack of choice, you know, being trapped. This is a card of choice. We'll come back to that. But I just thought it was interesting that they're both tipped up at the same time. The next card that you've got is the Page of Swords, or the Princess of Swords, as it appears here. It's air element. So Aquarius, Gemini or Libra. I think for me that this card is probably Gemini more often than not. And the Lovers is Gemini too. And as a page, the job is usually messengers. You know, they do the bidding of the king, and they act as envoys and go around, you know, delivering messages between the kings and the queens, and representing. Usually I interpret this card as someone receiving news that they didn't really want to hear. You know, it's a page, so it's kind of clumsy. And its sword is sharp. It's accidentally cutting without needing to be, really. But because they lack the finesse of the higher echelons of the core cards, they kind of blunder into and say things that are, you know, they're true generally, but they're not delivered with any kind of delicacy. But I'm getting a slightly different feel off this card. You know, the figure is swathed in blue. There's an awful lot of blue here on this card. And I feel there's a high level of spirituality actually implied by this card. And the fact that it's a page, what I feel is that this is you starting to understand that there are higher things that you want to spend your time considering, that you want to spend your time learning about. Spirituality is a huge part of that for you. But if you just have a look at that page has got that sword wrapped up. Right. The sword is sharp. Like, there's no doubt about that. And this page is coiling this rope or this ribbon or whatever it is around the sword. It's taking off the edge. It's knowing what needs to be said and knowing what doesn't need to be said. You know, there's an element of maturity here implied by this card, because, you know, everything that I was saying about the page before, about them being clumsy and about delivering things in a, you know, sometimes in a hurtful fashion, because they lack the understanding of the social mores that go along with, you know, delivering potentially delicate information. This page is wrapping it up. And the sword's pointing downwards, which I would usually consider to be not a lie exactly, but things, you know, not exactly being truthful. But I don't feel like it is that way. I feel it's more like the page, or you, or whatever, deciding that actually some things don't need to be said. And that's what I'm hearing. Some things don't need to be said. And the maturity that you are displaying at the moment is knowing how to discern between those situations and act accordingly. And it's all tied in with your vulnerability and your, you know, your nakedness here. Because in stripping down those things that were binding you internally, bringing yourself back to this state, it's an understanding that you have more to learn. You know, it's not exactly a tabula rasa, but it's getting close. You know, it's a starting again. And so you know that there are lots of things that you need to learn, and you know that there are lots of things that don't need to be said. That's part of your higher evolution, as it were. Quite odd. And the card that you've got to clarify is the Hierophant. Now, this can indicate institutions, so it can be schools, it can be businesses, it can be any institution where there is a clearly defined hierarchy. So I often use the example of sports clubs, because I'm a kickboxing instructor. I work in a kickboxing club, you know, and we've got the coaches, and then you've got all the people that come to learn. You've got the acolytes, as displayed on here. In businesses, you've got a CEO. You know, schools, you've got the headmaster, headmistress, whoever. You know, it's anyone who has more knowledge than the people below. And people below come to learn these things, you know, move on. What I'm slightly unclear about is whether you are, I don't think you are, because I don't think it would be is whether you are taking up the role of the Hierophant, or whether you are an acolyte. Because both are kind of implied, except that here is a page. And a page is the lowest rung of the ladder on the court hierarchy. But there's an eagerness, there's a willingness to learn there, and there's this blue everywhere. You know, you might have had a bit of a spiritual awakening of late. You know, maybe your aspects of your psychic abilities have kind of ramped up a little bit. And now you're looking for a mentor. You're looking for someone to teach you, because as well as being the card of Taurus, this is a number 5, and 5s are about change. More often than not, they're about uncomfortable change, but at this point, this feels fairly effortless. It feels like all the hard work has already been done. You know, all the hard work was getting you to the point of the sun. It was getting you to the point of the devil reversed. And now you're here. Princess of Swords. Page of Swords. Displaying maturity, tying up that sword and going, This doesn't need to be said. And I mean, take it as it resonates to you. You know, this could be not saying things that you think you would have thought before people would want to hear, you know, would need to hear, should hear about their behaviour or whatever. You know, it could be you not now delivering the harsh truth as you feel like it for the sake of it, and understanding that actually there's probably more going on than you are currently privy to. Or maybe it's just a newfound sense of self, keeping yourself to yourself and concentrating all of your energy internally. But whatever it is, you're looking for guidance now on that. I mean, it could even be a church, but I don't get the impression that the majority of the demographic that watch my videos are churchgoers. That's an assumption on my part, and that might be wrong, but it's not. I've just noticed that the Hierophant's robes, although red, underneath he's blue. There's a sense of progression here. You see the Hierophant's robes. Like, they're two different decks, but they're two very similar blues. You're starting here, but you're aiming to be up here. I think that's wonderful. But in order to do it, you had to lose a lot of baggage. You had to do a certain amount of reprogramming of yourself. You needed to flip your devil and discover your vulnerability. Strip yourself down to where you are now. And the two cards that came out together that I couldn't decide whether to take or not were the Knight of Wands and the Eight of Cups. And the Knight of Wands is a very different energy to the Hierophant. The Hierophant is very committed. You know, there's commitment, there's dedication, there's learning. You know, I mean, that could even be university, actually. You know, higher education of some description. Could be any of those things. And the Knight of Wands, he does have quite a few redeeming features, actually, I would say. He's a card of Sagittarius, but he's absolutely not committed to anything. You know, he's the card of living in the moment and bounds around from one thing to another, but he doesn't stick at anything because he always chases the fun. He has a lot to learn. It's quite an immature energy in that respect. And his horse is pretty wild-eyed and, you know, stuff, but they've come out this way round. This is fire energy, this is you. But this is also you. And you're headed that way. You feel like you're turning your back on things, ways of being that you've experienced up until now. It's like you're getting to a level of maturity that you can actually now start to cherry pick the best aspects of your element to follow, rather than just being subject to them. You know, like a teenager is subject to their hormones. Like, that's how I feel about the Knight of Wands. You know, it's just like, you know, no kind of attention span whatsoever. It's getting distracted by a pretty thing, galloping off on his horse. You're going, no, that doesn't work for me now. It's got you back to these cups and you're walking off. Because there are 8 cups here, I feel like you spent some time in this energy, whatever this energy indicates to you, you know, however that speaks to you. You are now looking to move away from that. You're looking for something else. You're looking for something more fulfilling. And you're doing it. You just put your boots on, you're off, you're gone. I'm going to pull one more card because, like, I get a really strong feeling that there's an education aspect to this, however that speaks to you. And if the High Priestess or the Hierophant or, you know, Page of Pentacles or something like that came out, I feel like it would completely confirm. Oi. One more. One more for Aries. So weird. You've got the Ten of Pentacles, the Five of Cups, the Six of Swords, and the Eight of Wands reversed. And put the Ten of Pentacles to one side for a second. Five of Cups is about regret, right? It's about paying attention to things that are, you know, that you haven't got, rather than looking at what you have here. Then you've got the Six of Swords, which is about moving away. And like, note how those characters are back to back, it's headed off that way. And then you've got the Eight of Wands reversed. And the Eight of Wands is about swift incoming messages. You've stopped waiting around for something. Completely cat-handed today. Give me a second. Yeah. Card that just jumped out is the Hierophant. Look at that heart there. This is the card that I was thinking of when I was looking at the sun. You stopped paying attention to what you don't have and you're appreciating what you do. Right? And you're moving on, you're moving away from things that don't serve you, you know. And I feel like this is emotions, but you've got words, you've got thought processes, you've got communications, you know, you're turning your back on a lot of things now. You're not waiting around. And then we've got these two cards here. The Ten of Pentacles and the Hierophant. With the harp, just as I said. Maybe you're looking to make your living the same way I do. Like, I don't know. Like, the Ten of Pentacles is complete material fulfillment, right? It's the blessed home. It's having all your needs absolutely taken care of and having some more on top, you know, so you can actually enjoy what you're doing. And then we've got this Hierophant again, and this heart imagery here, this harmony coming in. It's a Hierophant twice now. You got your eye on something and you want to make it your life's work. I mean, this is a card of commitment as well. The Ten of Pentacles is a card of commitment. The Hierophant is a card of commitment. And so is this one here. And you're turning your back on things that are non-committal. That could be people, that could be situations, that could be your approach to life in general. You know, that could be any of those things. You're turning your back on them and walking away. You're not worrying about what you haven't had, you know, what you've lost, what you haven't got. You're turning away from that. You're not waiting around anymore. And you're going after this. This screams commitment. This screams dedication. There's a real application of self implied in these two cards. I love it. It's so exciting. The final card that you got is the Two of Cups. And I think this was the one more than any that made me go, hello, this is slightly different to what we've had before. So I mean, there are the obvious meanings here for the Two of Cups, and particularly when we've got the Lovers, you know, those meanings spring out obviously straight away, because it's a card of I was going to say union, but I'm not going to use that word because I think that word is loaded quite heavily with romantic overtones, and I don't know. I mean, take it as it resonates to you. This is a partnership, though. That's what this is. It's two people who are on the same page about something. Now that can be a business partnership, that can be a friendship, that could be a relationship that you have with your sibling. It could be a relationship you have with your child. You know, the important point, the underlying message is that there is a meeting of minds and there is a shared goal. There's a shared vision about something. This last is in the blue dress. Again, here. Spirituality implied, higher knowledge. But this time, rather than having a purple sash around her waist, she's got a red sash around her waist. This is something that you feel really passionate about. You know, this is spirituality and healing and you know, all kind of, you know, higher chakra stuff. Like, this is root. This is passion. This is creativity. You know, this is taking this and applying it with someone else. Who? I don't know. You know, it could be a water sign. I might throw that in there. It could be. But I don't think that's necessary. The important point is, whatever you're planning to do, whatever goal you've got you've got set for yourself, you're going to bring someone else on board to help with it in some way. And they're not like you. They're different. Looking at this character here, it makes me think it's an earth sign, but I don't know. Take it as it resonates. The two cards that you've got to clarify, you can see those, are the Five of Pentacles in reverse and the Knight of Swords. The Five of Pentacles is a card of poverty, of lack, of being left out in the cold, of abandonment, right? Or a fear of those things. It's another five. We've got a few fives here now. We've got the Five of Cups, we've got the Hierophant twice. We've got this. You know, these two miserable looking figures, they're out in the snow, they're all crippled and cold and just having a terrible time. And the church is open behind them, you know. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, all they need to do is turn around and see that there's people in the church and they could just go in. But what you think on a dark night when it's snowing, they're not going to notice there's lights in the church. No, they've been cast out. You have been cast out, or you've been afraid of being cast out. But it's come up in the reverse. So you're changing that. Maybe this is one of the things, maybe a fear of this is one of the things that was indicated by your Devil card. You're either bringing yourself in out of the cold, or you're losing that fear of being out in the cold. You know, there's a fuck it kind of energy coming off here. No, you know, fuck that. No, I'm not doing that anymore. When you combine it with these cards that you've got of walking away from things and not waiting around anymore for things, you know, this is like a gathering of energy, gathering up. And there are two figures again in here. You know, just as there are in the Two of Cups, there are two figures on this card here. And then we have the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is the fastest moving energy in the deck. Right. Swords are fast. The Knight of Wands is the fastest. The horse looks like genuinely panicked with how fast it's going. It's not stopping anytime soon. It's a card of gathering momentum. You know. I'm looking at the blue on the horse's thing. I don't even know what those are called, you know, round its chest. There's butterflies all over it. And I'm really drawn to the similarities between these cards here. Like, the Princess of Swords is all in blue. She's got this kind of gold adornment here. And then we've got the blue of the sky and the gold of the cups here. And then on this horse, you've got the blue of the whatever it's called and the yellow of the butterflies. I don't know if the camera's picking that up terribly well. Those are all very closely related. Very closely related. There's a transformative element to what it is that you want to do. And I guess I would just caution not to be too hasty. Because although the Knight of Swords is fast, he is also a little bit clumsy because he's just moving with such haste, you know. He's the step up from the page. So maybe it's not a warning, maybe it is in fact just an indication of evolution up, you know, like the butterflies, you know, evolving, levelling up. Why is the Knight of Swords here for Aries? I knew that card was going to come out at some point. We've got the High Priestess. It's another card of the spiritual, you know. This is the witch of the deck, I guess. I guess the Queen of Wands is really the witch of the deck, but she's the High Priestess. Like, she's the big I am of witchiness. And it's come out with the world. It's the universe in this deck, but it's the world card. To get the Hierophant and the High Priestess come out in the same reading is a really, really strong indication of there being some sort of spiritual aspect to whatever it is that you want to do, you know, or that being a really important part of your life. Definitely. Oh my God, I'm rambling for ages. But to have the World come out as well is you're tying up a cycle, you know, like what you have been doing up till now, all the shadow work that you've done, that you've been working on, right, it's really borne fruit. It's great, you know, and that's a milestone. You've hit a milestone there. But you're about to step up again, probably a lot more swiftly, actually. There's a focusing going on here, you know, we've got the balancing out, you've done that. Absolutely balanced. You've managed to cut away all the stuff that you don't need, but more than that, you're understanding that you don't need to, and I'm being told that I should tell you that again, like, you don't need to say it. I don't know who that's for, but it's like very insistent that I tell you that again. You know what you want, and you know what you don't want, and you're perfectly prepared to walk away from what you don't want and head towards what it is that you do, and you've got an absolutely committed mindset in doing it now. And your intuition is guiding you correctly. But follow your intuition, and it's going to close out the cycle properly and catapult you onto the next level, you know, because you're ready. You're ready to go now. You're ready to level up. Oh, the shadow cards at the bottom, just before I go. You know, the Lovers is a choice. Often. But like I said, it's also the mirror of the devil. It's the flip side of the devil. You know, it's the positive aspect. It's choosing this over this, I think, here is indicated. You've chosen this way forward, this harmonious way forward, this comfortable way forward, natural way forwards. And you've turned your back on this. I've just pulled the other card up from underneath, and it's the Ten of Swords. It's an end to conflict, but I feel like it's internal conflict with you, Aries. I don't think it's necessarily with anyone else. I think this is you battling your own internal demons, and you're winning. No, Waite, you've almost won, actually, is what I'm hearing here. You're absolutely on the right path, and I approve so much. You have no idea. So I'm going to go, because I've prattled on for quite some time now, If it resonated, let me know. I love reading your messages. I read every single one of them, and I do reply to them all. And if you haven't subscribed, do. I love you to the moon and back and all that. And I'm going to start doing more regular uploads now. Think I'll do some mid-monthlies, and I'm also looking at doing maybe some shadow kind of type things, but I don't know, I haven't quite decided yet. So nevertheless, if you subscribe, you'll be kept informed and you'll be notified whenever I upload anything, and that will be awesome. So until I see you next time, best of luck, Aries.